Hi, this is Rich Chycki, and you're listening to Two Guys Talking Rush.
Two guys talking rush. Two guys talking rush. Two guys talking rush. Two guys talking rush. Two guys.
And now, get ready for the Two Guys Talking Rush podcast with your hosts, John Kane and Dan Buxton.
That's a great question, because I wanted to work with them for a long time, and it was a situation that was more or less a closed door. You know, there was some, I didn't know anybody at the camp directly. I'd met Al and Ged a couple times, and but didn't really know them. And a friend of mine who was working at the Rush office, he was in the management team, and we stayed friends because I didn't nag him to, hey man, get me in on the gig, and so I didn't natter at him for the gig. But he called me one day in 2004, and he said that Rush was doing a charity event, a charity recording with Bubbles and Trailer Park Boys, and they were doing a charity recording, and they were booked at a studio, but they had booked the guy that was going to do the session was a pop engineer. And so my buddy called me and says, he's not the right engineer for the gig, but do you want to do it? There's no money. I went, yep.
That was your way in.
Yep, absolutely, 100%. So I had a great time. With Al. I mean, it was like he's an incredibly funny guy. So we were just like, going back and forth. And at the same time, he would, any difficulties that we had during the session, he would ask me how much time I need to fix it. And, he would come in. I told him 20 minutes. He's in 20 minutes. Okay, where are we at? So he's very, very meticulous, but easygoing, and we had a great time. And then 3 months later, he called me and said, we've got this DVD that we recorded, and we haven't mixed it yet. And it was R30.
R30, that's right.
R30.
I'm looking at your discography as you're talking, because it's massive, and I would never be able to remember everything. But yeah, I'm looking at the date. So the R30 is 2005.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So 2004 was the charity event, and early 2005 we started working on R30, and R30 went 8 times platinum in Canada, 5 times platinum in America.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. So that 13 times platinum kind of sealed the, we had a great time working, and now there's something here that's really viable. And then it was, after I was done that, it was, it was like, hey, we're gonna record a new record. We're gonna record this Snakes and Arrows record. Do you want to record that with us? So that's how it all started, right? And once the surround stuff was proven, and because I mixed that, I brought all my rig. I brought my entire rig down to Al had a studio, and I brought my rig down to the studio and set it up, because I mixed. I had done a few surround mixes already in computer, and he went, you can't mix. You can't. What is this thing? Oh, I'm sorry. I just got a notice on my screen here. Just give me a second.
No worries. Take your time.
Yeah.
I thought I had something on my face.
Yeah. What is that? No, I just get this thing. All of a sudden it said restart not required. I'm going, what is that? Anyway, so he, the DVD, when I told him I had mixed it in Pro Tools. R30, yeah. Prior to R30, I told him some of the other music that I had mixed in Pro Tools. And he said, you can't mix in that. They were still, it was still very much console, tape deck kind of world. And I said, "Oh, sure you can." I brought my entire rig down and I played a bunch of surround mixes and some, stuff that I had mixed in computer. And he was just, "Why aren't we doing this?" I went, "Why aren't we doing this?" And that was it.
So you were using like Pro Tools and you were innovative in that way of using the digital arena early on in this sort of
Very early on.
Yeah.
We could, I could see the changes coming.
Yeah.
Could see the changes coming, that the power of the way it's recorded, of the recording at a fraction, a tape deck at that time for 24 tracks was $250,000.
Yeah.
Right. So, to be able to set up my first Pro Tools rig, which was 24, I had 24 IOs, 24 channels IO. I mean, that was like $50,000, which is outrageous by today's standards.
Yeah.
It was like 50 grand. You could have, tons and tons of tracks. So it's like, you could see it coming.
Yeah. Well, and thank you for that. So, we try to simplify things for Rush fans out there, because not everybody's a super technical nerd, like we are. And to sort of explain stuff in an elementary way, these tracks, let's say, for example, something like a live concert, these tracks are already pre-recorded. They're brought to you into the studio, or are you at the event? Are you kind of getting stuff at the events? Are you bringing anything to a live event, or the sound engineers have a separate rig? They're recording the tracks. So how are you doing this? You piece it together, right?
Great question.
Okay.
There are, there are legacy recordings that have been recorded to tape decades ago.
Yep.
And of course, you just get that's transferred into the computer. Yep. And then mixed from there. My R30 was already recorded,
yep.
as I said before.
Yep.
I ended up recording, I think it's Time. I did Snakes and Arrows live and Time Machine.
Yeah, I have Time Machine here, 2011, the live in Cleveland.
Yeah.
That's production. I have you listed as production for that.
Yeah.
Live in Cleveland.
I recorded it too.
Wow. Cool.
So I would go on, we would have a separate truck, an audio truck.
Wow.
And record the show, and but that was by no means a consistent situation. It varies.
Right. It must have been huge challenges with that.
Lots of tracks, lots of standby, more, a couple computers running it. Everything's running redundancy, lots of redundancy.
And then you got to choose what's best, right? I mean, at some point there's a
100%.
Yeah.
Got to go through it all. Got to, and some of it is putting together, there might be a song where a night, we would always try to record more than one night. And, night one might have 90% of it from night one, and then take a few songs from night two, a few pieces of songs from night two, and get pretty meticulous when you want to pull stuff apart, and the band is so consistent that, you don't hear it.
That's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. So you're getting these gigs with Rush before you even hit the studio for the studio albums you're doing. So it's sort of like you're sort of getting massaged into the role of a studio mixing engineer, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've been mixing for
other bands
for quite a long time, but the mixing for Snakes and Arrows. Snakes and Arrows was in particular a really unusual situation, because the producer Nick Raskulinix, he's like, "Hey man, want to go to LA to mix?" And I'm going, "Yeah, sure, I could find a place there." He goes, No, we're not going to do that. I want you to mix it on this Neve at Ocean Way, right? And this isn't like an old classic Neve. This is one of the newer high tech. And there was an 88R console, super computerized. And he just said, "Oh, I had a buddy of mine send the manual here." And the manual is like this thick, right? It was like it was that was when we stopped Snakes and Arrows. So it would have been in December of 2006. And January 2007, I was sitting in front of the console that I'd never seen before to mix. So that, that type of thing is, there's a whole set of challenges to that, but it's the good thing is that I'd done the recording, so I was kind of preemptive with things moving forward.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, again, I mentioned before we had Steven Taylor on before, who worked with Rupert Hine on Presto and Roll the Bones, and we talked to Steven because sometimes there's challenges working with a producer who has a vision. Oftentimes there might be some butting heads. Other times it's like free form. What was it like working with Nick Raskulinecz on these projects?
Well, you know what? We're both Rush fans. And that makes it very easy. And we're both engineers. The great thing about Nick is that we had a mutual respect for. We both do the same job. He can, engineer, mix, and produce as well, and so can I. I'm not producing, and he's not engineering and mixing. So he was very respectful of my space, and conversely, I was very respectful for his space. So he would let me, I would do a setup, and he would look at it, and he would listen to it, going, "Wow, that's awesome! I can't believe how well that worked." And and it's like, yeah, I would have used this and this and this, but we've discussed it after the fact, but we didn't go back and change things. But he would have his arsenal of stuff he wanted to use. And, I have a tendency to record in stations where I have the whole band set up all the time. And, we had a massive, massive guitar setup for Al so that we could just have all the amps running at the same time and just choose between them. And that way we're not wasting time to get different tones for different songs. We could literally just have all the amps up on the console, click them on and off, and then just make our adjustments and go.
Are you familiarized with the material before you start recording it? In this case, with Snakes and Arrows, so you listen to
demos.
Good. Yeah.
So Al and Ged would do demos and send them, and a lot of times, of course, there's no lyrics. Lyrics were a work in progress, and so sometimes Ged would have like a Nana track going of just phonetics, so that we have some idea of where the song is going to go. And so wait for the guys to finish developing it, because the interaction for them, I think one of the things that makes Rush really special is that there's that interaction that we hear on records. It's very organic, the way, they're friends, and they really, it's like any of them can kind of fall backwards and know that one of the other guys is going to catch them.
Yeah.
And that's something that applies to the music as well, where Neil will do something that seems completely contrary to the song flow initially. And then all of a sudden it's like, Ged will say, yeah, you know what, let's go back to, whatever, 2 minutes and 20 seconds or something I need to look at, go back in, and he would lock up to it. Wow. What Neil had done, and then Al would do that as well. And it was incredible, because you would hear something that at first it's like, what? And then it's like all of a sudden when they go back in and do their fixes to lock each other up, and it's like, that's Rush. That was it. Okay. Right there. All of a sudden the magic is right there.
Yeah, it's amazing. You come into the picture towards the end of their career as far as studio, and they're two of the most strongest Rush albums in their entire catalog, right? I mean, I can't tell you how many fans say that Clockwork Angels is their favorite album. And of course, Snakes and Arrows comes up. I love Snakes and Arrows. I love the instrumentals on that album. I always love a good instrumental. Are there any songs that stick out for you in the studio that you just liked as a fan, or you just loved hearing, or anything that might pop out?
Well, of course, Far Cry. I mean, I like.
Oh, the drum pattern on that is insane.
Yeah, I like all the songs, because up until that record being released, I heard that record more than anybody. Right, so for me, it's like I'm the teenage kid that wears out a record, but I wear it out by making it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So I'm more broken in than anybody for a long time until it gets out into the field. But when a track like malignant narcissism.
Yes.
Like that track is particularly special to me because that was a test of engineering. We had already finished the record, and we're already tearing down, and the drums were already torn down, except for the little core piece. Lauren had, he was just working at putting stuff away. And the bass pattern, Ged was trying a new signature bass. And he started to play that riff. And Nick just says, we got to record this. So we're at a place called Alair, where the two studios are in different buildings. He phones you up. He says, dude, don't take down the drum. Don't take down the drum mics. And it's like, they're already down.
There's 40 of them, right? There's 40?
Yeah, exactly. So he says, okay, listen, set up Zeppelin styles. We're going to go in. So 3 mics. So that song, if you listen to that song, there are 3 mics on the kit. And then
that's incredible.
And then a pair of room mics as for ambience on standby. So I recorded a total of 5 mics, 1 mic on guitar, and bass is we just threw it in direct and then reamped it later. So that was done completely organic, and when you listen to it, I mean, it fits right in with
I was just going to say that, like, you would never know just from listening to the album that it was done in any way different from the rest. It fits in perfectly,
and that's the way the guys play, the way they play. Yeah, right. They play. Neil. It's amazing when he plays that, because he'll, you see just how hard he's hitting.
Right.
But then when you see him, he'll do if you slow down what he's doing, when he does his fills, he'll do all these fills, and you can see the power of his arms. But then when he goes to hit the cymbals, you could just see this marked drop in power. So calculated, it's unbelievable. So that the cymbal does, there's a certain point where the cymbal gives you the emphasis of what you want to do, but then when you start to beat the crap out of it, it kind of stops sounding good after a while, right? Because you're compromising the instrument, right? But he had so much control. So when you only have 3 mics, you have to have exceptional control, or it won't sound good, and you can't make it sound good.
Too much cymbals could probably ruin a song. And I have one example of that is Can't Find My Way Home. Is that Spencer Davis? Who is that?
Blind Faith.
Blind Faith. Yeah. And it's that crash every time. I don't know what they were thinking. It jars me and I love that song. It's
they were thinking, let's do more heroin. That's what they were thinking.
I thought you were going to say cowbell, but no,
that's not what they were saying.
Every time. But going back to now, did you think after you recorded Malignant Narcissism like that and the result you got, did you ever think like, shit, I didn't have to set up all those damn mics?
No, you know what? No, because there would be points when Neil would be listening to a mix, and he just stands in the sweet spot and he listens, and at the end of it he just says, the fill just before before the second chorus, can you turn up the 5th tom?
So you need that control. You need that control.
1 tom. Right. It's just, I mean, how many drums and stuff he has. Like
it doesn't sound fussed over, though. That's the thing. No. It doesn't. No. There are a lot of like sort of more technical bands and technical drummers where it sounds like everything it's like a jigsaw puzzle was kind of put together piece by piece. I never get that from these guys. And if anyone has the right to sound fussed over, it's them. It never sounds that way, and I think they probably would have sounded just as, I mean, like what you were just saying, that it was an ambient mic couple, and that's it.
Yeah,
probably, you could have probably gotten away with doing that if you wanted to for like a few of their records, because they were just absolute masters. This goes here. This is like this, but again, it was all kind of, it wasn't in pieces.
Yeah, the recording,
the whole picture was very important. Yeah.
The recording process is very much it's a minimal amount of evaluations while we're recording. We'll get the certain drum sound, of course, but I have, that sort of Zeppelin style setup like this with the minimal amount of mics. That's set up all the time anyway.
Right.
So it's there that if Nick would have said, you know what, I just want to do the Zeppelin styles for the whole record, just turn off all the other mics and go. Right. So there is that possibility. So the recording should just generally be regarded as the capture, and to do to try and do the best job possible capturing. So record everything, and then we sift through it later, because production value of a record, not necessarily a Rush record, but any record, production value can change.
Mm-hmm.
It can change over the course of making an album. Maybe because the producer changes his mind, or maybe the record takes a year to make, and the trends in music start to shift ever so slightly. Yeah. So they go, they want to make some changes, and we have to be ready for that, right? We have to be ready to, if they want to reamp, use a different guitar amp or something like that. We can do that now, as opposed to before. It was a difficult process, say 30 years ago.
The other instrumental on that album, the Main Monkey Business, that of course was something that was planned, right? That instrumental.
100%.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Good. Which is another incredible song,
good.
And I know it's so
good.
Yeah.
And we had to. Okay, so for that song, interesting story. So there was some of the ambience. There's a big ambience with the on some of the toms where it's like, right, and the ambience is not it's not artificial, it's real. Okay. And Ocean Way had this amazing reverb chamber. Okay. And which was, when you see it, it was small. It was the size of a small bedroom, but it was made out of lacquered wood. And then there were these glass domes like you would see in like library lights from the 1940s, those really big glass domes that it was like those, and they were just put in all sorts of places, and the decay was really long. So, but Neil was like, well, I don't want to use digital reverb. I want to have this sort of really organic reverb for this song. So we couldn't record it because the Ocean Way is like right on Sunset Boulevard in LA. So middle of the day, just trucks and trucks. You would crank it up, and you would actually hear the trucks in the reverb chamber, because it wasn't underground, right? So we had to wait until 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, right, when it's quiet, and then go and record all the reverbs. We had to print all the reverbs at 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning, so that you wouldn't get trucks and all sorts of stuff in the reverb feeds. So,
wow. That's incredible. That's what's amazing about Rush, right? So you look at the production credits on all their albums. They're right there. They're getting credit for producing a lot of their albums. And you, just by talking, they're hovering, and not in a bad way, but they want to know, and they want to hear, and they want to make sure that the quality of the music that they're producing is at the level that they expect themselves to be.
Yeah, but I don't think. I mean, there was. I think that there was a trust that very quickly developed, that they didn't feel that
they were worried or something. Right?
No, not worried. We would. If there's any production ideas with respect to, say for Al, if he wants particular guitar tones or, they would just relay it to us, and we would just present them with options. What do you think of this? How about this? How about this? And it's like, no. Oh, I like, mark that one down. No, yeah. Oh, mark that down. And, oh, I love this. This is our core sound. We're going to use that. And it was a very, very lighthearted process overall.
Good. Nothing like the classic someone sneaking into the studio at night and turning up their vocals. It's that the Mob Rules.
Live Evil.
Live Evil. That's what broke up the Dio camp in that first that Mach 2 generation.
That's hilarious. So wait, he would go in and turn it up?
Yeah. What was the story, Dan?
The story, and I'm skeptical, to be honest with you, about the story, was that it was Geezer Butler and Tony Iommi were like this one faction in the band at that time. And Ronnie James Dio and Vinny Appice, who was playing drums for them at that time, were another faction. They're mixing Live Evil, and supposedly neither faction was in the studio at the same time. So Tony and Geezer would come in, turn all the faders up on the guitar and bass. Then they'd go home. Then Ronnie and Vinny would come in, turn those faders down, but I mean, there's not one fader to just turn up the drums. There's way more to it than that.
Sure.
And, I mean, if you've ever mixed anything on more than 16 channels, just turning one of anything up, it throws everything off. So I've always been skeptical. A lot of cocaine was going on at the time, apparently.
Yeah, that's a good thing for your hearing.
It's not just that. It's like, okay, was this really about the mixing of the album, or was this just cocaine? And many years later, they're like, yeah, it was cocaine and egos. Yeah. So
terrible mix.
So that's the story.
Well, anyway, we and this is the point that Rush none of that ever got away.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Unbelievable. It's quality. We want the best product we possibly can get for the fans, and that's what's incredible about Rush.
Well, they couldn't have factions. That was part of it. It's because there were 3 of them instead of they couldn't really break down into separate groups. It was this one unit.
Sure.
And the way they wrote music and the way they recorded and everything, everyone is really contributing, and everything is kind of has to be in the place where it is, or you take it away and then something doesn't work. You couldn't have a situation like what I was talking about. And it's just so obvious from how they are as people and everything, that they're so tight and not obsessed with I am the greatest drummer in the world, I am the greatest bass player in the world.
He happens to be, but that's beside the point.
that's the thing, though. He never had to say it. There was nothing to prove. He knew it.
Yeah.
A lot of these guys, and I've seen some extremely talented musicians who still have something to prove. And it's you've done incredible work. Let it go. And they can't let it go.
Sure.
These guys, I never have had that sense that was ever the case.
Oh, but they would do great work. That's really what it comes down to. They wanted to do some sort of a creative expression. I can't profess to be able to speak on their behalf by any means, but listening to, just watching how they would do stuff, that it's let's make a record. We just want to create and have fun.
Yeah.
You cannot get a better record. That's the best conditions that you could have, is to have such a positive, laid back atmosphere where it's, you don't have to worry about saying, oh man, we need to have a hit or we're going to die, man. We're not going to get, the band's not going to make it. This just kind of, let's do, 32 bars or 64 bars of music here randomly, just because we can, and people listen to it and love it.
So what was it like being in the studio with the boys? Are they fun? Are they I know fans really want to hear the in between stuff at
Comedy Central.
Yeah,
Comedy Central. It was awesome. We would just sit back and just we would laugh, and Nick was remarkable at keeping the band out of the safety zones that all artists have. Right. They all have safety zones, and I do as an engineer, where I have my defaults and then I can extend from there, but I have my defaults that I'll go to first. And he would push all of the band members out of their safety zone, which at times isn't, there has to be a lot of trust there in order for a band of any large stature band. There has to be an element of trust there, and I think that the guys, they assess personalities and compatibility they're very quick about that sort of thing, and I think they could detect that there's good camaraderie and team action between the background, the support staff, the producers and engineers, and the band. So they're very, very trustful and very articulate when they what direction that they wanted to go in, and if they were shown ideas that they're completely open to hear anything, and there's no one would get offended if it's well, you worked on that for 3 days. Yeah, no, we don't want that. And it's okay, well, you know what, it could have been something that is amazing. It could be something that would have been an amazing change, and it's something that it doesn't work. But that's how, by putting ideas on the table, The more that you have there, the more that you have a chance to have something that has some innovation, right?
Yeah. I wrote down this question. The more I look at the question, the more of the answer in my head is duh. But I think it's at its core is a good question. Is how for you, how is it different working with a band like Rush than, let's say, a traditional rock band? And listen, like I said, it's a duh question because obviously Rush are they're bigger. There's a lot more complexity. But for you, what's your approach with a band like Rush compared to a traditional, let's say, 4-piece, 5-piece rock and roll band?
Or like you worked with Mick Jagger, right?
Yes.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, I mean that's poles apart.
There you go.
Completely.
What I mean, can you say what some of the differences were, or is it just not even a comparable
No.
situation?
You know what the funny thing is that there are more common things, not necessarily in the recording part of it, but the common things are very important for dealing with high stature artists.
Sure.
Regardless of the type of music, right? And that's to be prepared, be respectful, do a great job, respect their celebrity and, if they, their privacy, all of those things, that's irrespective of music style. Right. And but it spills over. So, with Mick, I would get instructions from his support staff and they would say, Mr. Jagger requires a singing booth, 2 by 3 meters, I think it was. And we need to have a high pile rug, but not a shag rug and not brown, please. Right. And he needs to have, he wants to have water, but please make sure the water is not in the way. Have the microphone set up, but make sure that any things are out of the way. And I'm thinking, this is very specific.
Yeah.
But, for me, talk to my assistants, let's go, let's get it all set up. And, and they'd be like, well, why do we have to set up such a big room? I said, well, because
it's Mick Jagger, and that's what he wants.
Yeah. Correct.
Right.
He wants it.
Yeah.
But once he got in the studio and got behind the mic, he's like, are we ready to go? Like, there's no testing. There's no testing. It's like, we're ready to go. Okay. He's like, yeah, I think I want to sing this song right now. He goes out and puts it on, and he's just waiting for music, not adjust the mix, nothing. Let's go.
Wow.
When that music started, it literally was like flicking a switch, and the dude that you see live, that was a dude that was in the studio. That's why he needs a space, because he's moving, he's grooving, he's doing his thing. So he knows exactly what he wants. He knows exactly what he needs to perform, and he would go and he would just rock out in the studio. It was unbelievable, so he would, do his own and clapping his hands and grooving out and doing all this stuff. Right. And then all of a sudden he would just go, well, I think I want to come in and listen to that. It was just turn off the switch, and he would come in, and it's the other guy, but he knows how to channel that energy on command.
It's amazing. I love the Rolling Stones, man. I know.
But you know what? All bands of this stature have learned how to do that because they've been doing it for so long. If Rush does that, I mean, they don't do. I don't see Ged doing the whole groovy doovy thing, right? But
you're not likely to see that.
No, not today. Maybe tomorrow, not today.
you never know. Yeah.
Right. But the thing is that they can channel all of that energy that we all know in their recordings. They can channel that, boom, on command.
Yeah.
And that's where all of these bands are the same. For me, if it's a band that's highly technical, I just have more prep work to do.
Right.
Where I've got 40 mics set up for Neil's kit. If I'm recording a standard band, I might get 12 to 16 channels of mics set up. So it's smaller, but it really doesn't, capturing the band and then dealing with the personalities to keep the inertia going and having a great session. that's not, there's no music style. All of that transcends music style. So
that's so interesting. Well, moving into, and just a few more questions as it relates to Clockwork Angels,
sure.
and some of the re-releases. Your name's all over the re-release Rush material, which I really want to get into.
Sure.
With Clockwork Angels, are you briefed? The phone picks up, it's like, oh, hello, it's Rush? Or what happens? How are you briefed on the new album? You've already worked with the guys, you get demos, what happens?
Well, Al and I stay in touch. I was working out of his studio for a few years, and at that time I was when he's demoing, it's like I kind of know what's going on because I'm there, and he would just be piecing stuff together, or he's like, hey, I'm going over to Ged's, and we're going to piece together some more material, and he would just play it for me, so I knew it was coming. I knew it was coming, and then once it got to the point of budgeting and timeline, once that's in place, then the office starts to call. So it starts to transition from just the band to the office starts to call. And it's like, okay, well, you know what? We need to look at some studios. We had done Caravan and Bu2B.
The singles, right? The singles.
Yeah, the singles. Those they were recorded at Blackbird Studios in Nashville in, I'm thinking 2011, I think, don't quote me on that, but it was
2010, 2010, Caravan and yep.
There you go. Whenever the iPad 1 came out, because we went to Apple and we cleaned them out of iPad 1s.
Really?
in Nashville, we walk in, it's like, hi, could I have 7? Like, pardon? Thanks, see you later.
I love
it. Clockwork Angels was really, those 2 songs were done, and then, they wanted to do the corollary work after the fact, and they needed to get the rest of the record done, right? And it just by nature of what it was, it turned into a whole theme record. So
what'd you think of that album, the concept and the end result? Just jumping ahead a little bit.
I really enjoyed the fact when they said that they wanted to do a concept record, because it was something that I was involved in, and it was just to see, a concept record is very much, it's, when they would take a smaller track, it really is just like doing something that's, much more massive, and then
part of a larger narrative, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. You're I think I'm going to interview you. You've got the better phrases than I do.
I'm trying, man. I'm doing my best.
But yeah, it was. It was an exciting record to make. It was markedly different than Snakes and Arrows.
Yeah.
We did the tracking for, aside from the 2 singles, we did the tracking of it all in Toronto, as opposed to at Snakes and Arrows, we were at Alair Studios, and we lived, it was a residential studio, so we lived there for the weeks that we were there. And so it was a marked difference as far as the atmosphere of how we're working and stuff, because the band is family obligations, and it felt more like a work day. We're done, we're all going home, as opposed to at Alair, it's like, we're done, let's eat, and then we hang out. Yeah. Because there was no real place to go there anyways, because we were up on the side of a small mountain. So
yeah,
what I was really sort of amazed by was that they had never done a concept album before. And if there's any band you would think would have multiple concept albums, it's them. But I'm glad they got around to it when they did.
Well,
2112 and Hemispheres are pretty concept, I thought.
Yeah, I think,
but not the whole album.
No.
Yeah, maybe there was some stand, but I think
true
with Rush, and because of Neil's investment with the lyrics and his thoughtful intent and meaning behind lyrics, that there was always a theme, and the theme was always the anchoring part.
Right,
So it could be argued that most of all Rush albums are concept albums, but nothing like Pink Floyd, The Wall, or Dark Side of the Moon, where it's like this: we're setting out to make a concept album, and we're either going to fail or succeed. But the continuity, I would say, with Snakes and Arrows, I don't really consider that a concept album. However,
I don't either.
No, but it has a theme.
Right.
Neil came into it with a theme, and the theme drove the lyrics, and the lyrics are the continuum, right?
Yeah, and he has his, he is a consistent performer lyrically, very consistent performer. So when he puts his mind to, his lyrics maintain this quality while he's doing his magic, and it's lends itself to being, a concept album, by nature of that alone, right? And I think it's the band putting together, say like something like 2112, or Caress of Steel. Caress of Steel is kind of like a concept. That's like a full, almost of, the last track on the first side, and the whole second side is like one, a couple of big stories there.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's more accurate to say that Rush is a concept band, because there are certain themes they touch on, and there's a grandeur, I guess you could say, to everything that they do. And it was never about, okay, we're going to do this one thing, this one way, this is it, that's it. There was always more to it, and they were always going to hit you with something kind of, I guess, rarefied is the word, that you just could not get from any other band. They were the only ones making that stuff that way.
Sure.
It was like going to a specialty boutique, or we're the only ones who make this one thing. This, you can't get it anywhere else.
That's true. There's nobody that sounds there. Nobody that sounds
I hear
like
bands. I hear bands cover them, and it's just there's always something is not right, and I can never put my finger on it. But I think only those guys can perform those songs that way and have it come out that way.
It's true.
Every Rush cover band I've ever seen, incredibly gifted musicians. There's no question. These guys can play. They know the songs backwards and forwards. Something is not there.
Chemistry.
Yeah.
And so, was there any indication and thank you for your time. Just a few more questions.
No problem at all.
Was there any indication that this was the final Rush album? You and Nick, were you saying like, wow, this could be the last time we're ever going to be in this seat?
At the time of the record?
At the time of the record,
Right.
yeah. No?
Yeah. Nothing.
Yeah.
We had, we had just geared up to make another record, and the band was getting on in years. So I think once anybody's over, I mean the age is going up, but once there was 40 used to be kind of the line, right? It used to be the line, and now it's just kind of bands just say, well, you know what? Why stop if we don't have to stop? So there was no indication, that it was just basically go out, track a record, go out and tour again.
We often say on this show, and it comes up a lot, how prophetic the Clockwork Angels album is to the career as a finite album, as putting the kind of sealing off an incredible line of music right out of all the studio albums. The final album is Clockwork Angels. Thematically, it touches on the sort of finality of things.
The garden.
I was just going to get right to that. That's an incredible song. I mean, it gives me chills every time I hear it, especially the solo. It's one of the best guitar solos Alex, to me, has ever done. I mean, there's many. The solo on Limelight, there's many I love. Yeah, exactly. But there's something really oddly eerie and beautiful about the Garden solo. Can you talk about that song and when it came about and how you about recording that?
That song, with Clockwork was there were demos in place, but we had started recording prior to the, all of the pieces of the song puzzle being put together, right? So it's funny that you mentioned the guitar solos. One of the thing I've always found about Al when he's performing is that his style, the emotion that he puts into his guitar solos, it's really that. It's quite stunning. It's really stunning the way he assembles. He'll put together solos, because I listen to when I'm mixing some of the older material. There's a lot of outtakes of solos on there. Where he'll all of a sudden you'll go through and there's playing and there's no vocals there. So all of a sudden, any tracks that were reserved for vocals, there's outtakes of guitar solos, that sort of thing. And you can hear him experimenting, and you hear the formative pieces, because this is well before my time. You could hear the formative pieces, but the garden was, we're there and watching him absorb the emotion that's been recorded by his bandmates. That's what he feeds from, is the emotion that's recorded on the track. Right. And he he's very quiet, zones out, stops talking, and he just focuses on his instrument. And we're in the room, yet he's alone, because he's just he closes himself off and he just lets the music wash over him. And it's ethereal almost. It's an ethereal experience to watch him do something like that. And then when he is in that zone, there's we're waiting for that sort of that moment of greatness to come together, right? Because you can see it coming. He's just waiting, and he's just quiet and just like, roll it again, do it again, do it now. So we put the solo on loop because it's on computer. So just take a bar before, enter into the solo, and end of the solo, it would hold for a few extra bars, and then it just automatically would do a new take over and over again. And he would go, and you could just feel everything forming. So, very, very organic. It's as amazingly complex as the band is. The constituent elements of what they need to make great music, very, very organic and basic. Right? Not the playing, but the elements that they use. They just feed off each other's emotions when they're playing.
That is the last song on the last album of the final Rush ever.
Yeah.
How is that not incredible?
Unbelievable.
It is unbelievable. Yeah. What band could you even measure that to? And bands have faded out very epically. I mean, in plane crashes and deaths. But this is like, holy shit! This is some other shit.
Yeah,
right.
It really is. It's quite monumental, I think.
Completely.
I don't think I can think of another band that ended that well in terms of what their recorded output was, that went out on such a high note that people to this day regularly refer to. Like, we get guests on this show all the time. We're like, that's my favorite album. That's their best album.
Oh, wow. Great.
Yeah.
And congratulations again, man. Nice job. I mean,
well, thank you.
Top notch.
Whatever you did, it worked.
Just try and keep everything up technically and cheerlead.
Oh my God. Exemplary all the way around. I mean, it's just 5 stars, from the band to the writing to the recording to the mixing. Just woo! You can't get any better. I don't think. No. Any other songs on that album that stand out for you? And also the 2-part question: how do you approach Clockwork Angels differently than Snakes and Arrows as far as mixing and recording?
Okay, first off, the mixing. I mix the singles, and Nick actually mixed the record.
Oh, okay, right.
So Clockwork was Nick. So what his approach was, I can't really answer. I can't really answer as far as if he had any different approaches, because I wasn't there for it.
Right.
So and that was something where, he just wanted to do it. And he's an engineer and mixer himself. So that's great.
Yeah.
Right. So,
Incredible.
like as far as how the records themselves are different, do you mean the approaches to recording?
Maybe, my notes here, recording engineers, you're listed with Martin Cook, Jason DeFore, Paul Fig, and Steven Kosler as recording engineers, but you're pulled in because of your work with the singles, right? Is that what that?
Well, what that is the engineers. Paul Fig did he was cutting the orchestra.
Oh, right.
He was cutting the orchestra in LA. So he didn't do the core recording with the band. He recorded the orchestration.
I see.
The other guys that are listed there are studio assistants.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
So they're all assistants. So they didn't have any active role in the recording. So I would say, it's like, here's what we're doing. We're putting Neil's kit here.
Yep.
I need 40 stands set up. Here's my mic list. Plug everything in this way I want it plugged in. That sort of thing. That was the assistants. That's what their job is. And to mitigate, if there's something that I'm doing in the studio, then they need to go out and, if there's a mic that's shifted or somebody's tripped over something and it's out of place, it's their job to mitigate any technical issues for me while I'm doing while I'm in the studio with the band. Cause I can't, if I just get up and leave, it's, the session grinds to a halt. We don't want that.
Did you tour? Did you go to? Did you travel with them at all, or did you go to? I mean, you must have went to some of the shows, but did you do some traveling with the band at all?
No, didn't travel with them. The only time we would travel together, like the band, we flew back and forth to Toronto and down to I don't know what airport it was, maybe Woodstock, near Allaire Studios for Snakes and Arrows, and the band had they had rented a private plane for the flight down and back and stuff. And I was on that with them. I would do, I recorded them in the Netherlands. I recorded them in the Netherlands. I recorded them in Cleveland and in Texas, 2 shows in Texas. So that's the extent of my travel. And of course, if they're playing, I was when I was in LA and they were playing, they came through LA, so I went to see them. And if when they're in Toronto, of course, I would always go to see them.
Yeah,
so, but didn't tour with them.
Yeah. I'm looking at your discography again, enrolling into a lot of the re-releases that are coming out. What's in your view, what's going on? Is it technology driving the? I mean, obviously there's money to be made, but I don't. Rush doesn't cheapen their catalog that way. They want the best product, and that's what fans love about them. So what's going on? Is the technology now available and we could just hear things better? Or?
So have you heard Tom Sawyer in either 5.1 or Atmos? Have you heard the mixes?
I not in that real sound. No, not
okay,
yet.
You haven't?
Yeah.
If you were to hear it, you would answer your own question immediately because the experience of going from stereo, the original recording, going to 5.1, and then going to Atmos, which is multiple speakers overhead, movie theater type of experience, is the immersive audio is so enveloping, and it makes such a strong statement. Easiest way to quote this, easiest way for me to explain this. I had mixed Limelight and Tom Sawyer for a release that Amazon did for Amazon.
Right.
Amazon HD, which is Atmos. And I mixed it, and I'm not remixing it per se. I am mixing it from scratch, but I'm not recreating. I'm not creating a mix with a different direction.
Like Vapor Trail's album, where
that's a remix. That's we want to change. We want to change things.
Yeah.
In this case, it was emulate the original album as closely as you can, but it's going to be in a format, You know,
Right.
it's going to be in one of these modern playback formats. And so, you know, what I did is I went and I mixed this, and then Al came to sign off on it, right? So hit play, right? And he is like frozen in the spot. He's just frozen, eyes closed, and he just listened to the entire song, which is 6 minutes and change, I think. And he listened to the whole thing, and he didn't move a muscle. And, you know, I'm sitting there going, oh, geez, this, hope he likes
bad.
this.
Yeah.
I started to get a little concerned, right?
Yeah.
The end. And he turns and he says, this is the first time I have heard what this song sounds like in my head.
Wow.
Boom, right there, the experience. And that's the artist. He is the most connected person to that song.
Wow.
And he said that was the first time that he experienced what he could hear in his head he said for the last, it wasn't 40 years yet, 30, 39, 38 years-ish.
Wow.
And so he was just enamored with the technology and with the, you know, and with the experience of what it does, because, you know, I mean, even the very beginning, that the Oberheim, that, which, you know, that thing at the very beginning, you know, in the Atmos version, it comes from the back and high up, and then it just basically goes, whoa, and lands like a spaceship in the mix. That's how the song starts, is with this thing that comes down.
Wow.
You know, and you know, and Neil's kit sounds like it's 12 feet high, because all, you know, the cymbals are lifted, and, you know, so when he hits, you know, there's this dimensionality to the music that just doesn't exist in the original. So when you have something that's a great song, you know, you have a song that's really amazing, well written, well crafted, well played, and then you give it that push with the technology, you know, it's game over.
That's such an advanced album anyway. The songs and the whole deal with that, it's incredible, you know.
Yeah.
So how can your average Joe listen to something like this, and it's in this format?
I was going to ask that.
Yeah, you're going to spend a little money. Sure.
Most people don't have an Atmos set up in their house.
I wish I did.
You know, I would love one, but, you know.
The thing is, that what Atmos has over 5.1 is a very
common, right?
It's common, but it's a very finite environment. So if you look at 5.1 and then the derivatives, 7.1, 9.1,
yep.
If you have a 9.1 mix, right, and you don't use software to interpret the mix,
yep,
right? If you don't use that and you just play it back, if you have a 9.1 mix, you play it back on a 5.1 system, you have 4 channels. You have 4 channels that will not play back, right? Now, if it was a 9.1 mix, there's a possibility. What would happen if the triangle, for the beginning of YYZ, what would happen if the triangle was in one of those speakers? So it shows you the potential of what it can do to completely obliterate the mix.
Yeah.
Right. So the return level would be very high of the product. People would say, well, there's something wrong with this. There's no triangle.
Right.
Right. Even though, because it doesn't play back on all systems. Atmos, however, you have the file that we mix to is never truly fully mixed. You have a 128 channel file. We see it as one file, but there's 128 channels within it.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a bunch of data that is included with it that will tell the playback system where to place music in those files, right? So from an end user point of view, it's completely transparent, right? So if I'm mixing in, say, a room that's 916, so I've got 9 speakers on the main plane, 6 speakers up high, and then a subwoofer, 916. So, but you go to a theater might be 64 channels,
right?
Way more speakers. So in my case, what ends up happening is I would say, let's say I've got one piece of audio coming out of, let's say, the center speaker up high, right? So and it's coming only out of that speaker. Now in a 64 channel system, right? In a 64 channel speaker system, it might come out of one speaker as well. because the whole speaker canopy, everything aligns. But let's say we give it to somebody at home, and they go to Best Buy and they pick up an Atmos rig, and Atmos rigs are typically reflective sound bars. So there's one up front and a number of them on the sides. And they just go on your walls, and they have speakers that fire up to the ceiling, and then the audio comes back down. It's reflected.
Wow.
Right. So that, though, they won't have the same setup that I would have or the theater would have. So the software automatically interprets it and will triangulate it based on the number of speakers you have. So you might have 3 sound bars, say, in your rig, and you might have 5 sound bars. And the mix will play back accurately, right? The mix doesn't collapse because of the change in the listening environment, right?
Huh.
So that's what the power of Atmos is that
it's smart. It's smart technology.
It's smart. It is smart technology, and it will adapt to all sorts of environments. So the satisfaction level for listeners is a lot more consistent.
Yeah, universal.
They just put out an Atmos version of the first King Crimson album, Court of the Crimson King.
Cool. Oh, great.
I would be Stephen Wilson did it.
He did an Atmos?
They put out a new box set. It's a 50th anniversary set of everything they ever recorded in 1969.
Wow.
And I'm slightly addicted to their box sets. Small cocaine problem with those. And I'm looking through it, and it's got these Blu-rays, and there's an Atmos mix on one of the Blu-rays. And I was extremely intimidated by it because it's, I just assumed you need to have all this stuff everywhere. I didn't realize that it was like flexible enough to adjust to whatever setup the listener has.
Yeah. The Netflix, I think Tidal and Amazon, of course, and I don't think Apple is. I don't think they're marketing it yet. But
Apple and Amazon don't do anything. They're at war.
But the Atmos, the Atmos technology is Dolby, so that's irrespective of any of the manufacturers of products, right? So they're a technology. They license their technology to, phone makers.
Oh, okay.
That's what they do. So, all of the major people, Universal has already mixed 100,000 titles in Atmos out of their catalog. They're remixing their entire catalog in Atmos.
Wow.
So is this what you're doing for Rush now, or have been doing for Rush? Is re-releasing a lot of the?
Well, I've been re-releasing stuff.
Yeah.
I can't really talk about stuff that's if there's anything going on, I can't really talk about it prior to them sending a press release, because it would not be a good thing.
No.
But all of the.
Tell us anyway.
That's right. Tell you anyway. There's nobody listening. All of these box sets, that I had done in 5.1 is just, for like 2112 was unbelievable, and as was Hemispheres, in 5.1, and it was it's a new way to experience the music. Really, that's all it is. That's the whole idea behind it. Is experience the music in another way, and it changes the way that it changes the way we feel listening. Like when you hear, the middle of Hemisphere is the I have memory and awareness. I have no shit. All that part, with the spaceships and the thunder and all that stuff, and the thunder, it shakes the snot out of the room, and and the ships, you hear them flying by in the background, and they go, there's motion where it actually passes by you, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And it just makes for, a really incredible experience.
As a fan yourself of the band, it must be such a special relationship now, going back into the older material and then sort of having this opportunity to apply your skill set and everything you've learned in your life to the Rush legacy, right? You've got your imprint on it now, man. That's great.
It is like no other experience, so
Yeah.
every, whenever I go to work on that, I'm smiling from ear to ear all the time. When there's stuff that I want to hear. I mean, the first thing I did when La Villa came on is like, boom, right to the solo, right to it.
That's
And
so
never mind all the other stuff. I want to hear that. And literally, I mean, nothing was mixed, right? I need to hear the solo. Look for it on the screen there, and I just listened to it, threw a little bit of echo on it, and it's like,
That's the stuff.
that's the stuff.
Yeah.
So wrapping this all up, in your opinion, how has it been working with Rush compared to all the bands you've ever worked with?
Well, again, being a fan, being a fan of the music since since the beginning, since the beginning, and it's so having that, having that as a framework for my work with them, and and getting to know the band members, and just seeing how they intermingle when they're recording, and it's truly, it's truly an incredible experience to watch that part of it, where it's just just there's so much great. The band is so unique because the relationship is unique, right? So it's very, very refreshing. It's one of those things that I do a fair number of talks with seminars with young musicians, and I talk about this ad nauseum, where it's like, oh my God, it's such an old band. It's like, but you need to learn this stuff.
Yes.
You need to learn this, because this is actually to have a company, because they're a company, right? They're a company that's massively successful after four decades, and it's really because of the relationship that they have with each other, and the respect that they maintain, and that carries over. It carries over into everything. So it's there's certainly a highlight for me as far as my career goes.
Yeah, and because Rush are no longer touring and not an active band, the myth and lore of Rush is only going to keep growing, and it's just going to keep getting more expansive. We can already see it since Neil has passed and the band is not touring anymore.
Yeah,
fans are crawling out of the woodwork. New fans are developing. It's really a cool thing,
Yeah, it's amazing.
It is.
Really is.
So we ask every guest on the show to give us your top 5 Rush albums. Very difficult task, but your top 5.
Live albums are allowed, by the way.
They are allowed?
They are allowed. Yes,
Oh,
that's my little contribution to this segment, because some of my favorite Rush albums are live albums.
Got it. In no particular order, right? So
No, I prefer order, but you do.
Oh, come on. Yeah, I'm not sure if I could put them in order.
Okay, do your best.
Do my best. I'm going to go for. I think Moving Pictures is going to be my all-time favorite record.
Mm-hmm.
Moving Pics, probably Hemispheres after that, and Permanent Waves. And then Caress of Steel and Clockwork.
Caress of Steel is often overlooked in this
I
discussion.
never hear that in the top 5. That's a good one.
No, that's
great.
Caress of Steel is a great record. As far as I mean, I don't look at it just as a casual as a casual listener, right? I mean, that's because I'm listening to the band's. I'm very close to the band's development, and when that record was such a big push, I mean, Bytor was kind of the song that was their first foray into extended length songs, but Caress of Steel has all of these experiments. While I guess comparatively speaking, it wasn't a well-received record compared to, say, 2112, but you could see the bones, you could see the roots of where everything was going.
Yeah.
you know, and that's the great thing about that record, is that I listen to that and I can, you know, I can feel where 2112 came from. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why I enjoy it so much, you know.
Do you like the 80s material? Do you like the 80s material at all? The post signals?
Yes. Yeah, I do like it. I prefer I prefer the more guitar based, you know, and I think when you see the last two records, when the last two records came in, there was a very powerful shift.
Big time.
So
very riff heavy.
Yes, very powerful shift, you know, for guitar. I mean, I enjoy all of the records. I mean, you did only give me 5, so you know. So
yeah, what are your top 19 Rush albums?
In order?
No, but yeah, it is hard to choose, and you know, I mean, part of why I like the live ones is they just have a little something. I feel like a couple of them really have definitive performances of some of these songs.
Sure.
And you know, live albums for a lot of bands are just kind of this afterthought, but for me, they're essential parts of the catalog.
Yeah. I mean, the Big Money is crazy as far as like the amount of keyboard action.
I love that song.
And the angularity of the effects, and you know, and it's like, for me, that's a hyper produced record. There's so much going on, and long reverbs and
power windows.
You know, very, very long. It's a very busy record.
That live album is extraordinary and gets overlooked all the time as a show of hands. I love it so much. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, the work that they have, the amount of work that they have in their catalog is
incredible,
amazing. And it's, you know, there are days where, you know, if you want to listen to something like the Big Money, and then there's the days that, you know, let's get a nice rendition of Rivendell going.
Exactly. And just the thing, you're swimming in it, man. You're taking a nice, cool bath in it all, man. Wonderful.
Yeah, that's right.
That's awesome, man. So where can folks learn more about what you're doing?
You could go to my website, richardchycki.ca, www.richardchycki.ca, and that has links out to any social media that I've got going on. If you just want to, I'm around. So, you know, I have a Facebook page, Instagram, and anything that's happening usually gets trickled down there sooner or later. So.
Cool. And I just want to, on behalf of myself and Dan and the legions of Rush fans, thank you so much for your investment in making Rush sound so much better. And just being not only just an engineer, but just a Rush at heart, a Rush fan.
Yeah. Well, listen, I appreciate the support. You know, it's support of people like yourselves and the fans. You know, that's the reason that, you know, everybody, the band, everybody, we all do it because of that support and the enthusiasm. Yeah. I mean, that's why we do it, is we get that symbiotic sort of thing where, you know, we feed off each other, right? We want to do this stuff. So, you know, thank you for, you know, keeping things going.
Ladies and gentlemen, the legendary Richard Chycki. Fake applause, right? Thank you very much for coming on to Two Guys Talking Rush.
Thanks, man. All the best.
Right on. Well, there you have it, Dan.
It was a good one.
That was a good one.
Yeah. I have to go out and buy an Atmos setup now.
I was going to ask if you could lend me some money to maybe Atmos is listening and they could be a sponsor.
And they just want to give us free shit.
Atmos.
Yeah, Atmos. Give us free shit. Thank you.
I'll give you my address later. You can send me a package, right? Yeah. Wow. Yeah, please. That's one thing, you know, you forget that at one point, high fidelity audio was an important thing in one's home.
Yeah. You would not settle for anything less, in fact. And it was very important that everything sounded just so. That's a lot of people seem to have gotten off that boat, though, in recent years.
Yeah, why? I mean, you can't even walk into a tweeter center or a proper stereo
because everyone has all their music on their phone that they do over Bluetooth to a very small Bose speaker. As far as they're concerned, that's enough, you know.
It's not enough. We need more. We need better sound.
Everyone is not like us. That's the thing. Everyone is not like, serious, committed, at all costs type of fan. There are some people who are just like, yeah, they have a couple of good songs. So
listen, if there's any band to listen to properly on proper stereo equipment, it is Rush. So all you Rush fans listening, you may be broke like I am, but save your pennies and go out and buy some real hi-fi equipment and listen to the good work that Richard Chycki is doing for you, because that's how Rush should be listened to.
Yes.
Is in surround sound, especially the live stuff. Oh, I just I wish, listen, it is what it is. You live your life and you earn your money and you buy what you can and you can afford what you can afford. But geez, I have that vision in my head that I'm sitting in a room that's my proper man cave, and I'm able to put in a live Rush DVD out of their countless collection of live albums, album or Blu-ray, and just be able to hear it in the right way. You know what I mean, man?
Yeah, the way it's supposed to be heard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want that. I don't want to, there's a lot of things I want, but that's
well, like he was saying that Alex Lifeson said it sounded the way it sounds in his head.
Yeah.
I must know what that is. I must experience that before I die.
It's true. Well, there it is, folks. Another kick-ass episode of your favorite damn podcast, the podcast of all podcasts, the mother of all podcasts. Well, I'm starting to sound like Jay Giles, Peter Wolf. Sorry, I didn't mean to do my best Peter Wolf impersonation. But listen, we do this for you, and we want to bring you the best. And I think that was a fairly good episode.
I agree.
Don't you, Dan? Yeah.
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Well, there it is, folks. My name's John Kane.
I'm the delightful Dan Buckspan.
And this is another kick-ass episode of Two Guys Talking Rush. What can I say? Rush!
Rush!
Rules!
Two guys talking Rush. Two guys talking Rush. Two guys talking Rush. Two guys talking Rush. Two guys.